Good afternoon and welcome to Ziggy'S World. And this afternoon, I've got a special guest, James Dreyfus. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Mark. How about yourself?
Good. I'm fine, thanks. Great. It's lovely weather here today, so
yeah, and we're both dog free today.
And dog free. Yes, the dog's gone to my family. Not gone.
No. Still alive.
Gone to the family.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the first question, actually. And it was the most serious question I've got. I was going to ask you about Mr. Hobbs.
Yeah,
and if he was going to be included in the interview, but obviously
no, because he's a pain in the ass, frankly. And I put him outside, so he's just lying outside. He's quite good at that. I mean, if he really wants to come in, he'll start making some noise. But he's usually pretty good. But I don't let him in here because he just faffs about. So, but he's very well. He went swimming for the first time today, so I've had rather a wet morning.
the second part, and it was of the same subject. You've got a huge account on Twitter, over 100,000 followers now. How much is that down to you, or how much is it down to Mr. Hobbs?
That's a really easy one. I would say a good 80% of it is Hobbs, as I'm told all the time. We're not here for you. We're here for the Hobbs videos. We're here for the Hobbs pictures. So I'm rationing them now. Otherwise, I just take them for granted. I don't listen to a word I say. But it's definitely Hobbs is the draw. You know that. I know that.
Right. Let's get into it. Let's get serious, if we can.
Yeah.
You've been in quite a few programs. The Thin Blue Line, absolutely fabulous. Gimme, gimme, gimme. The Sarah Jane Adventures, Mount Pleasant, so on and so. Oh, quite a few. And by the way, my niece, I have to mention my niece Catherine, because she's one of your biggest fans, and she loves you in Gimme, Gimme, Gimme. Oh, so well, I had to get that out.
Well, send my love to Catherine.
I certainly will do. So what new projects are you? Because I know you've been filming. So what new projects have you got?
Well, I've been filming. I did a horror film called Kara, which is coming hopefully at the festivals. I just finished filming a film in Serbia called Family Secrets. I finished a film last year. It's either called A Recipe for Love or The Brazilian Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow with Kit Connor. And I've just also been filming the second series of House of the Dragon. So it has been quite busy non-stop for the last 2 years, but that was after quite a long break away due to COVID and due to other factors that I'm sure we're both aware of. So I've been, touch wood, quite lucky recently.
Absolutely brilliant. Let's touch on that. Something you've just said there. You took a long break for obviously COVID and that and other reasons. Is that the reasons of gender being such a voice on gender critical?
Well, I mean, the whole.
Do you think you've lost jobs because of that?
Oh yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, I haven't worked for an English company bar this horror film that I've done. I've worked for none of the terrestrial channels, well, not terrestrial, but you know what I mean, for about 6 years. So I get employed by foreign countries, rarely in my own country, which is where we've got to, because I decided to ask for a rational debate about an issue that affects over 51% of the population. And I also signed a letter condemning death threats. I mean, who would have thought this is now where we are, that by doing that, I'm now viewed as the bad guy.
Yeah, it's I interviewed Dr. Pam Spur from,
Oh yes.
and she was of the same opinion when I asked her about her career and her jobs, and she said the same. Undoubtedly, she's lost, and she knows for a fact she's lost jobs due to her speaking out
Oh yeah, yeah.
on this topic.
I mean, I've sometimes got phone calls saying, "Oh, this company would like you to think about this," and I think about it, and I go back and say, "Yes, I'm interested," and then suddenly something happens, and it all goes away, and you think, "Oh, well, they haven't done their research."
And do you think there's a list that people have been blackballed
I
because of
don't
this?
now. Yeah, I'm absolutely sure of it.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, these times are so. I mean, this sounds sort of very cliched, but when you use the word McCarthyite, but I mean, we are really back in the thick of that. I mean, lists, and I was tweeting about lists last night. You know, there are so many. Someone said, "Have you checked how many lists you're on?" I said, "Well, no." So I did check, and it's just endless, but absolutely arbitrary, meaningless lists. Some are nice, and some are not. Some are not so nice.
Do you think
But I
within
mean,
the
anyway,
industry?
sorry.
Do you think within your industry there's lists?
Yes, absolutely. I think there have always been lists of a certain
Yeah,
kind. To be
yeah.
honest, I mean, back in the 80s, it was whether you were gay or not. Very difficult to get a job back then if you were openly gay. So it was a very different type of list. You know, I'm always convinced that Rupert Everett would have gone on to have a much bigger and a more Hollywood career had he not taken the decision to come out when he did. I mean, I was very grateful to him for making that decision, but undoubtedly he suffered, and you know, you just didn't hear about it back then. I mean, the phrase "an openly gay actor" was the thing to say, wasn't it? Openly, you were openly gay, and I was promised by Stonewall and all that is, listen, we want to get to a stage where you're just called an actor, not even a gay actor. That it becomes so normal that, but we seem to have gone the opposite way.
It's quite interesting because while doing a little bit of research for this interview, you gave an interview to Andrew Doyle where you actually spoke about this, where you said we really hoping that we would be where we are with less labels, not more.
That's it.
Now,
I mean, that was the aim. The shows that Stonewall used to do were called the equality shows. So I've always assumed that that's what we were aiming for. Was just it became a non-issue. We've now reverted. We've gone back 20 years, and there
yeah,
are more labels than ever. And what happens with labels? Division. It's simple as that. The more labels there are, the more divisiveness there is, the more you're told to think about these certain things and, you know, make sure you look out for microaggressions. So that the more it's on your mind, the more division that causes. I'm very much of the Morgan Freeman school of thought of you want to stop something, just shut up about it. Just shut up about it. I mean, of course, you can have conversations about it, but you don't make it your main way of thinking, you know, which queer theory and critical race theory and gender ideology all forced you to do. I think it's a very, very, very strange way to behave, and a very, very strange way to encourage others to behave.
yeah, it's yeah. Another thing that's just happening now is the hate law that's coming, and how that affects people in the media. We've even heard, which they've denied now, is that they were going to go after comedians or artists on stage with what they say. And then they've now come back. The police apparently, there was a video which showed the police doing instructions before they brought this rule in Scotland, and they've now denied this and said that that was just one example, and they were not going to go after comedians and that. But it's very serious times we're living in when freedom of speech is being curtailed so much like this. It's quite. Do you fear for the future, or for being able to speak out on the? Will it affect you when you speak out on X, or?
It's not going to affect me personally. If you're just asking me, I'm just carrying on regardless. I don't care what these people bring in, what they say, that you can or cannot say. And if I get in trouble for speaking the truth on a subject, something we all knew to be true 10 years ago. I mean, it's not my opinions that have changed. It's everyone else. It's everyone else has gone raging forward with this madness. And I guess I'm just sort of doing a donkey move where I'm putting my hooves into the sand and saying, no, it's not going to affect me doing anything. In fact, it will probably have the opposite reaction. I mean,
that's exactly what J.K. Rowling has said.
Well, and also look at Ricky Gervais. You know,
yeah,
I mean, look at I mean how popular his shows have become because people have been complaining about them the entire time, and you know, the most watched comedies ever. Because he's doing precisely the same thing. He's just ignoring it, and I think that's what we can start doing: is just ignoring these.
That's the one thing that I found really interesting was with Ricky Gervais was when his last show came out, and I know you spoke about it on X, and yes. it was fantastic.
Yes,
they desperately tried to get him cancelled with what he was saying, didn't they? And it had the absolute opposite effect of what they were trying. In fact, he was loving it because he was saying, the more publicity you're giving me, the better this show's getting.
Yep.
And I found it was absolutely brilliant.
And of course, it sort of fills his act with material because all it does is, you know, if you want to really get to the truth of things, let stupid people talk. Let them talk. Let them talk, because that's the whole point, is you can debate. It's when they start saying you can't say things, otherwise you will face consequences, you know, legal consequences, or, you know, even just, you know, we've all heard the process is the punishment. Even just taking you to court, you're talking about 2 to 3 years of time out of your life and a lot of money and a lot of hassle. And this is what this is, and people know this at the moment. So this is how they're going to go about it. I mean, the courts. I don't know what the courts are going to do. I don't know how it's going to be policed. I mean, I really don't. They can't even solve crime in England, Wales, and Scotland. They can't even solve any crimes.
Well, one thing it has done in Scotland, it is immobilised everybody. We're now seeing people who are for the union and people who are for nationalists that want to split up the UK. They're actually coming together on this and saying this affects all of us, not just you. It's now going to affect me. And I do know there's going to be a few big demonstrations on the 1st of April.
Yes.
So I think this law is going to be soon will be binned, because I just don't think it's workable.
I hope so, but I mean, in some ways, it's announcing something as ridiculously stupid as this. Well, is actually going to, you know, it's sort of like it's pulling its own tail over its head and stuffing the tail into its mouth. It's eventually going to eat itself because it's so ridiculous, and people are not going to put up with it. I mean, especially here. I mean, people often talk about UK and America, and they're totally different cultures and totally different countries. Just because you speak the same language, we do not speak the same language. So let's keep it separate. The people over here will not put up with it. They just won't. So I look forward to seeing how this pans out.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to a huge catastrophe and an enormous crisis.
I'm looking at what I'm looking at, and I've been following quite closely, is J.K. Rowling and what she said about this. And I loved the tweet where she said, come April the 1st, I am ready. I've got my lawyers ready and I'm waiting. And come after me. Just try.
But you see, there's a lot of people that will do the same as her in solidarity. A lot of people, I've heard, people planning lots of things. This is where you begin to see who your friends are, and a lot of people think this is absolutely nonsense, and a lot of people will join in. And who knows, there might be another shift. Because what's true today is never true yet tomorrow, and what true was yesterday is certainly not true today. So who knows? But they're going to have a real tough time now.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now then, online abuse.
Oh yes.
I've followed you for quite a few years now, James, and I find it quite disgusting, the amount of abuse you get, and I think the amount of abuse J.K. Rowling gets is unprecedented. I don't think I've ever seen anyone get as much abuse as J.K. gets on social media, especially over the last few years. Now, how do you deal with that?
Well, by number one, realizing that if you look at the amount of abuse I get, if you look at any women's accounts who are gender critical, who have much less followers, get triple or quadruple the amount I get for a start. Just for a start, just by the very fact that a lot of men don't like women speaking back. Now, I used to react to it all, and in fact, when I get messages from people now, I'm very selective about who I choose to RT or thing, because people just say to me, "Oh, just ignore them." And I think in many ways, yes, ignoring them is right, but I also think sometimes, especially when lies are being told or some outrageous thing is being claimed, that there's nothing like a good bit of sunlight to just show the level of hatred and the level of misogyny and the level of just downright cruelness that goes on. And people are saying both sides. It's absolute nonsense. You occasionally get some maniac from the GC side saying something completely unacceptable, and you'll find the first group of people that condemns that person are also from the GC side, and that has happened before, when this mad woman from America said, they should all trans people shouldn't exist, and got absolutely blasted from our side. I rarely see that going on the other side, so I'm not a both-sider on this. I just tend to try and make them look as stupid as they've already made themselves look. I mean, I don't think retweeting something and just putting an emoji of my eyes looking up is being offensive to anyone. But then they'll say that's just me inciting hate online. Well, no, I just retweeted you.
That's part. I get some abuse, but obviously I don't get anywhere near, not even close to what you guys, the kind of abuse you guys get. But I struggled early doors when I did get, when they did attack me, because I tended to react to it and go after them and think, well, no, and basically do the same, go after them like they've gone after me.
Yes.
And I got told by, there's a couple of things. I got told by someone who has got a big account. I won't name him, but they contacted me and said, "Mark, you're giving them oxygen by doing this. You're playing into their hands. Just either just make." And then I started looking when I looked at your accounts and I looked at your tweets and that, and I thought, how well, in my perception, is how well you deal with it, with humor, with ridicule, and you totally destroy them. And I'd started learning from that, thinking, well, if you do that, and if you put a bit of jokes in it, or you put a bit of humor in it, they very rarely come back at you, because they move on.
I've noticed a sort of sharp decline, but a sharp decline in abuse. Maybe it's because of that, but also I do ignore quite a bit of it, but then you see they've got different tactics, don't they? They've got the tactics of saying, well, you've now got 100,000 followers. If you retweet what I've just tweeted you, you're then bullying me. And I said, but you're the one that's just come up and called me a C word and told me to, shut my effing mouth. I said, no, it doesn't. Why are you being? These are the cry bullies. These are the experts at Davo. These are the gaslighters, and they're there. They just sit there all day. They've joined Twitter, 15 years ago, and they've, got 12 followers, and all they do, if you look through their timeline, is just abuse. And you don't waste your time with people like that. It's when you get misrepresented, and don't forget, it doesn't matter whether you have a big account or a small account. They go after who they want to.
You've kind of frozen again
all the time,
James.
And I don't quite understand why that's still happening with Elon Musk in charge. I thought this was going to.
I think we're having a little bit of technical issue, James. You've frozen again. Oh, you're back. You're back. Yeah, you're back. Oh.
Sorry.
That's no problem. We can carry on. Technical
where did you lose me?
Sorry?
Where did you lose me?
Just we could hear you, but we couldn't see you.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we still heard you, so
okay.
we'll carry on.
I mean, the abuse thing, and also don't forget, in 10 years, I kind of got used to it. I mean, but some nights you go to bed, it gives you palpitations. There are some times where I still need to take some days off because I get too involved and I get too irate, because sometimes I just say, oh, F off, and that, so it's not all the time it's clever. It's just sometimes I just think, right, okay, you're going to send that to me. I'll just make you look stupid.
Do you get threats?
Yes, I've had threats. I've had threats against my my own mother at the beginning, but I've had this rule that I screenshot everything. I mean, absolutely everything. So I've got screenshots from 10 years ago because I know one day receipts will be called upon, and I've got them all from people who've said things about my family, and they even go after. I mean, these people, such of the mentality of these people, they sometimes even make comments about Hobbes. So this just gives you an idea of who you're dealing with. I mean, there are some real subterranean type of Neanderthals on this thing, but it, like I said, what I get is nothing compared to the hassle. J.K. Rowling or Maya Forstetter or Kathleen Stock or any woman who stands up to say, actually, you know what, I'm drawing a line in this sand and you won't cross it. Well, they go for you even more then.
We've seen that with J.K. recently, and I don't know what the account is called, the Wizard something or other.
Wizarding News.
That's it, yes. This guy who, in my view, I think any abuse crosses the line, but the line so far in front of him, I don't think he actually knows what a line is, where he's gone after, well, he thought he was going after J.K. Rowling's daughter with a picture which showed the house, the street name, everything, with a child. And he said it was J.K. Rowling's daughter, and that's a granddaughter or whatever, grandson or granddaughter, whatever. And it turns out, well, as J.K. said, it's a load of complete and utter nonsense. She doesn't, as she stated in the past, and it's quite easily looked up, she doesn't have a granddaughter, and a relationship with her daughter is absolutely fantastic. But it's upset her daughter deeply, what this guy's posted. And JK, personally, I thought she was, right at the start, I thought she was pretty good well, not good, but, I wouldn't have, in my view, but she gave him an opportunity to apologise, retract it, take the pictures down, apologise to her daughter, and move on. But this guy sent a so-called apology where he said he did apologize to JK's daughter, but then he went on to blame JK for this. And
yeah,
then,
I actually didn't think it was an apology at all. I thought
no, it wasn't an apology,
rubbing,
and it was
rubbing her nose in an even
yeah,
worse way.
Yeah, and she's now going after him legally. She's had enough,
Yep.
and I think good on her, because
Yep.
if you go after somebody, it's bad enough going after somebody on Twitter anyway with this kind of abuse. But for me, the line is, and I know it's happened to me once, where family they basically threatened my family, not just me. And that's a line. That's a line for me. If people do that, that's a line.
Absolutely.
You can come after. For me personally, people want to come after me on Twitter about my views on independence and the way forward for Scotland, then that's fine. But if they come after my family, that's a different story. That's a completely different story. It's crossing the line.
Absolutely.
And I think there needs to be. I think, like JK, I think has said just recently, you have to go after. She has to take this all the way now, because this needs to stop. I think the abuse entirely what JK receives, and I do think a lot of it as well is media led, and we've even seen with politicians. I saw Joanne Cherry tweet something about Police Scotland had done a video or a text, and they did a scenario where they may look at certain things, and it was they changed the name, but it was quite obviously they were talking about J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And the police doing that were well out of order in my book. Absolutely complete out of order, because that just leads to more abuse.
Yep.
And I think, but I do think, because we've got to a situation now, in my view, is where it's getting too much. I think I personally do not know how she handles this personally.
Yes, I mean, it's been it's been every single hour, every single day for 12 years now, non-stop for her. So I mean, I think she's got the patience. I don't know how she does it, but like you say, you go for the children. You know, she's a very strong woman, but you know, she's like all of us. She's human, and some things she can bat away, and some things she cannot. And why would one not bat this away? If you go for the children, that's game over. Game over. And I seriously hope the person behind this is toast after this. I seriously hope so. Just for the cruel way he's gone about it. I mean, it's nothing but wretched cruelty. Full stop.
Yeah, I completely agree on that, James. So what now? What now for you? Where do you go from here?
That's an excellent question. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. The acting has always been like this. You know, since I left drama school. You know, 1 minute you're sitting there doing absolutely nothing for months on end, and next you're busy for 8 months. Anything could happen at any time. So at the moment, I have no immediate plans.
Any thoughts of an autobiography or
an autobiography?
Yeah.
Well, I'm only 55. I know the trend is to
seen
write your
footballers doing them at
autobiography
20.
as soon as you possibly can, cramming them into your full 18 years. But I think I'm going to wait until I'm a bit older before I spill. In fact, plus the fact I've also got to wait for a lot of people to die if I'm going to write my proper autobiography, because I don't want to be sued.
Well, we've seen footballers doing autobiographies at 22.
Well, exactly. I don't think
You could do part one. You could do part one, and then part two.
No, I don't know. I think if I'm going to do it, I'll get it all. If I ever do it, I'll get it all out in one spurt and then hide somewhere, and probably in another country. Because if I tell the truth, I'll tell the truth, But
Yeah.
and it's been a bit of a mixed bag out there. I have to say though, most people I believe are good. Most people are good, and most people do the right thing. I just think we've in the last 10 to 15 years, we have allowed an ideology to slip into, and it thinks it's doing good, but it's actually doing the most incredible harm, not only to this particular generation, but unless we wake up to the next generation. And I think that some people believe they are doing good. They believe that this is the right thing to be doing. I think we're in the guinea pig stage. We don't know what things are going to be like in 5 to 10 years' time, where we all might be seeing a very, very different story, which is why safeguarding is perhaps the most important thing of all. And we seem to have completely abandoned that.
Well, why do you think a small minority have had so much influence over politicians in the country? And have
Exactly,
so
because
much
it's
say?
been hijacked by extremists. When people say this is a trans issue, I do feel for genuine transsexuals who have gone through, years of therapy and some awful reconstructive surgery, and I think they've been used as a scapegoat, and been this whole gender ideology has been piggied upon their back. Because when you say trans, well, who are you talking about? Stonewall insists that there's an umbrella, so there's 5 or 6 things. Transvestite is not the same as a transsexual. Trans-identified is not the same as either of them. Drag is now in there. Non-binary is now in there. It basically means, if you suddenly go, oh, for goodness sake, asexual just means you don't want to have sex in the afternoon, for goodness sake. You're then being transphobic because they're all included under one umbrella. I think it's a cleverly thought out way to ensure that money keeps rolling in, and as Stonewall has still a huge hand in all this. I don't know what's happened to them. They've, to me, since 2014, they've completely lost their minds. I mean, completely lost their minds. And this is going from an organisation that I once thought was the greatest ever. I don't know what's happened, but I think they should have stuck with thinking about gay people gay, lesbian, and bisexual people in other countries, But no, we were now in a situation where people go to places like Qatar and Saudi Arabia instead of taking a moral point and saying we're not doing anything with you until you start treating gay people with equality. That's the route they should have gone down. Because a lot of gay people, we did certainly. This is not the same as the fight for gay rights. The fight for gay rights was we were told, all about equality. This is saying trans rights are human rights. Well, of course they are. But if you're saying that one of those human rights involves impinging upon the rights of another group, then that is not your automatic human right. One group cannot go into another group and expect the other group just to roll over and say, okay, at least have a dialogue about it. But we were told no debate from the very beginning. So this is now, unfortunately, turned into a war. We did not start this war. It was Stonewall and its ilk in 2014 changed the rules suddenly.
They have a lot of influence, don't they, in schools and in within government? They get a lot of funding
everywhere you look. I mean, it's dangerous. If you tell a child that, if you teach them about this new word that certainly wasn't around 15 years ago when we were discussing these things, non-binary, and you treat children who say they're non-binary differently or specially, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of the class of 4, 5, 6-year-olds? 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds. What do you think they're going to do? You know, they're going to want to be treated specially. They're all going to want the little badge. They're all going to want the lollipop. That's how kids' minds work.
It's brainwashing, isn't it?
Well, it's indoctrination. It's saying, you don't have to be that. Jakey, and a lot of these kids, who might be effeminate or might be butch girls or tomboys, as we used to call them, or effeminate men, might well grow up to be gay. Leave children alone. This is the biggest mistake they've made. They made the fundamental error. They've involved other people's children. And people do not take kindly to that. All they've given is they've given the evangelical right, and they've given the people that hated gay people anyway an enormous can of gasoline, and they've said, pour it on us. But we're all going down together under this ridiculous umbrella. And a lot of us now saying, no, wait a minute. We had 15 years of relative peace and calm in between, the end of the AIDS crisis and where we are now. Who would like to return to that? And it was before all these things were added on to LGB. And you have to say to yourself, sorry, LGB has been same-sex attracted. Not about changing your sex or wanting to dress up as somebody different or identifying as something different or saying that you're fluid. It's nothing to do with that. That's that's the world of gender. So no wonder many of us are fighting back now and saying, no, we'd like to get back to, the normality that and the tolerance and the acceptance that we built up over a great number of years. And I feel all this goodwill is being washed away. And it is tragic and sickening to watch, where you're now living in a country where in Scotland, there are no lesbian bars. They're not allowed. They're not allowed to meet up. I mean, I hope I'm making sense here.
Yeah.
We've regressed to
Yeah.
the most extraordinary state.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how people can say this is inclusive. There
Yeah,
is nothing
it's the opposite,
inclusive.
isn't it? It's complete opposite of inclusive.
Totally the opposite.
We've gone back. We've gone backwards.
Yep, we've regressed. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's the sad thing about it. That's what I worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
I look at my nieces and my nephews and I worry about them, and then I worry about their children. And
the big issues, and I totally agree with what you've said just now. My big issues is I think women's rights as well have been taken back decades and decades and decades.
Yeah.
I think the safe spaces in public need to be, that needs to be looked at, because women don't feel safe going to the toilet in the public areas, and that's a shocking development. Where to get to where we are today, and parents of kids, their rights have been completely taken away. They're being told now that you can't even debate with your child about if they come back and say, well, I'm a boy, who's a girl, and I want to be a boy, or a boy who wants to be a girl. You can't even you can't even sit down and have a conversation about that anymore.
No. Canada jailed a father recently for 6 months for doing exactly that. Jailed him.
Wow.
That's
coming here. That is coming here.
Yep. I mean,
that is coming here.
I find this all very, very scary, which is why, people scoff and they say, oh, culture wars. Oh, what is this meaningless? What are you talking about? Cancel culture. It doesn't exist. Well, my goodness, if it doesn't exist, I don't know what world they're living in, because we're seeing it in action every single day. We're seeing a media which is completely complicit. We're seeing, I've never been around so many people who have so little faith in any institutions left. I mean, no, but people who used to respect the police, and I used to have I don't know where I would turn now if I had to go somewhere for a problem apart from individuals. But
Well, we're told in Scotland, that because of police resources, every crime will not be, they will not come out to every crime. But they've also said everyone that complains about that someone's said something hateful about them will be, every single one of them complaints will be looked at and will be will be investigated.
And tell me, who decides what is hateful and what is not hateful?
Yeah, apparently the police officer will decide that.
So, if somebody, if you're at work with someone and they have a grudge against you or something, or they know you're gender critical, and they go to HR and say, someone just arched an eyebrow at me walking down the corridor, I'd like to report a hate crime because I felt at that moment, I felt as though that was directed towards me. Are you saying that could be...
That would be investigated.
That would be investigated. It would it?
Yeah. It might not be seen followed through, but from what I can gather from what the law is, or what it is going to be on the 1st of April, is they will investigate every single person that phones up and complains or goes in and complains about this. They'll investigate every single one, but not every single one will be, you'll be seeing about it, but you will go on a register. You will be, it will be taken down and it would be held. And I might make a complaint about you, right?
Yeah.
Now they might look at that and say, well, we don't need to speak to James about this. It's not, it doesn't warrant him being arrested or, a visit from a police officer. Yes. But what we will do, we will note this down and that will go on a register and that will be held. You will never know that you're actually on the police register for...
You see, that's what I find so scary about this, is so they're not obliged to inform.
No, they won't. You might not even hear about it.
This is going to be the most catastrophic thing, I think. Well, I might as well going to buy a month's supply of popcorn and see how it goes through the month.
Yeah, because my issue with that is, in the scenario, you make a complaint about me. In the same scenario, now I then go, they put me on the register and they say, well, that's was done, and and he's on that, got a black mark against him. I then go and say, well, I need to go and get a mortgage, or I need to go and get a loan or something like that. When they do the check, that's going to be on that. That might affect your credit rating. That might affect your livelihood, because there's certain jobs that you cannot have a police record against you, and that might affect your whole life. And you might not know about it until you go and say, well, I want a loan because I want to buy a new car. And they say, well, no, actually, your credit rating's been docked because you've got a police...
I didn't realize it was going to go that far. I didn't realize.
Well, that's the issue. That's how I've seen how it's going to happen. Now, there's so many different people and so many different, more educated people than me, lawyers, that are arguing about this.
Right.
Some saying, well, this will happen. And others are saying, well, no, that won't happen. It's going to be... because it's not black and white. It's not... It's open to interpretation.
Yes.
Now, the police officer will be the one that interprets whether that's a crime or not. And they don't need evidence and they don't need corroboration. They can take one person's word for this. So as you say, if you've got a gripe about me and you look at J.K. Rowling, for instance, she's going to get thousands of complaints made in the matter of hours.
Yep.
So...
Yep. Well, I mean, it's going to be... this is why it's possibly the most unworkable thing I've ever heard. And once you've got a police force that's been trained by Stonewall, I mean, you've had it, haven't you? I mean, without fear or favor, well, forget that. You just go back to your Stonewall training. I cannot see how this is going to work in practicality, apart from saying to real criminals, I tell you what, boys, we're off for a couple of months. You get on and do what you like. I can't see anything other than that happening.
No, and it's something, especially here, because we've got 1,000 police officers less than what they promised and what there's meant to be. Police Scotland have said they're stretched to the limits as it is. And if they've actually even said it, if I have, say, go on holiday, come back and something's been pinched from my garden, and I phone up and say, I want to make a police report, I've been burgled. If they deem, well, it's not that bad, it's only a gnome, or it's only a garden ornament, or it's only something, they won't come out.
Incredible.
They won't come out.
Just incredible. I mean, incredible.
It's absolutely, it's as you say, it's completely unworkable. And this has been, by the way, this has been law since 2021. This got royal assent in 2021, this law. So it's been in Scotland since 2021, but it's took the police 3 years to train up to be able to bring this live.
Good God.
So it shows you how they can't even, if it takes 3 years for them to train for this,
I really feel for Scotland being used as a guinea pig for this. I really feel so badly for the people of Scotland, because I think this is, we're going to be watching. I think everyone's going to be watching, how this goes down. And
well, I mentioned just only a couple of hours ago, I was talking about it. I've had 4 or 5 now international human rights lawyers start to follow my account, and one of them has over 200,000 followers. She does programs on Fox, and she started following me, and I know she's followed other accounts in Scotland as well.
Right.
So it just shows you, I think people from this has got a recognition worldwide, this. And I think human rights lawyers are actually now watching this very closely.
Yes,
on how this develops, because that infringes your human rights. Yeah. This law infringes your human rights.
Yeah,
so it's going to be interesting how this develops and how this plays out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we shall be all watching, as you know. We'll all be watching.
Yeah, and let's hope it doesn't come to England. Hope it.
Well, it's bad enough it's in Scotland, I mean, I don't know. It'll probably eventually go to. I mean, it depends on what's going to happen. I'm sure people are going to watch and see, which is why I do feel, that they're being used as guinea pigs at the moment, and it's just going to be a colossal waste of time.
Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking.
And for me, Mark.
I've really enjoyed it. I'm gonna do a quick break, and then I do what's called Ziggy's rant.
Okay.
I'll have a quick rant, and then we'll end the conversation. But I really do appreciate you coming on and speaking with me this afternoon.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Mark. It really has.
We'll do a quick Ziggy's rant, and then we'll end the show.
Rant away.
Welcome back, and this is my rant for today, and it is about the hate law in Scotland. One of the most dangerous legislations we've seen, I've seen in my lifetime. it's and this was voted in not only by the SNP, but we had Labour voting for this hate law, and we had a couple of Conservatives, but not many, and the Liberal Dems voted for this law as well. Now, I am seeing a little bit of rollback from Labour are starting to discuss this and starting to roll back a bit on it. But in my view, it was too late. This bill should never have got through Parliament. This bill should have been voted out immediately. It had to go back. They actually did this hate bill, and it went forward, and then the judges, it went to the court, and they send it back to Parliament and said, no, you have to look at this because there's certain things in it that are breaching human rights that are in it now that you can't do. So they had to redo it, and they've come back with this, and it's a completely unworkable law. It shuts down freedom of speech. It shuts down. I think it affects media. I think it's going to affect shows like any show on YouTube like this or any other show that does politics. I think people are going to be a bit wary of what they can and can't say, because this could affect people's lives. If you get a police record for this, in fact, you can actually get 6 years in prison for this hate crime, between 3 and 6 years in prison and a big fine if it goes to court and you're found guilty, just for saying, in my views, some hurty words. Now, of course, we have already got laws which hate laws. We've always had them. We always have. And I saw an account the other week who said, I don't know what all the fuss is about. It's hate laws needed. Well, yeah, a hate law is needed, but it didn't need to change. We didn't need to change it to what it is now, because what it is now, it takes women's rights. Decades back, it shuts down debate, in my view. So I think the politicians and the police need to get back together, and I think they need to repeal this and send it back to where bin it with the GRR bill. Put it in the same bin as the GRR bill, because both have been an absolute disaster for Scotland. They've cost millions and millions of pounds, and I just don't see how it's going to work. So that's my little rant over for today, for this show. Again, James, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. It's been pleasure. Absolute pleasure to interview you, and
I'm sure we shall speak soon.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. Thank you, everybody. If you like the show, please put your thumbs up. Send me a thumbs up. Send me a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, because the more subscribers I get, the wider the audience I get. So please do subscribe. So again, thank you everyone for listening in and watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.